Good evening, everyone. Welcome to Election Night 2024. Today, we have Mitt Romney from the state of Utah with his running mate Liz Cheney from the state of Wyoming, both running on the Democratic ticket, ironically, given they were both Republicans until this year. And for the Republicans, we have Tulsi Gabbard from the state of Hawaii, a former Democratic politician, and Tucker Carlson, cable news show host from the state of New York. In the positions, so we have a somewhat unusual matchup in terms of positions this year. We have the Romney-Cheney campaign for the Democrats. They are actually therefore increasing taxes on the poor. The poor is 47%, meaning everyone pays some tax. They're pro-war. They're pro-intervening in Taiwan, which was invaded by the People's Republic of China last year and is being ravaged ever since. They want to federally ban misinformation. They want to do nothing about the border. Tear down the wall as a symbol of racist white supremacy and male privilege. They're pro-gay marriage, even though both of them weren't as recently as less than a decade ago. They are equity above all. They are pro-common sense gun laws, vaccine mandates, legalizing most abortion, and they want to put Trump on trial. The Gabbard-Carlson campaign wants to raise taxes on Amazon in particular, and companies that don't pay taxes because of their loopholes, like Jeff Bezos. They're anti-intervention and even giving aid to poor Taiwan. So very selfish towards the American country. But we gotta take care of our own needs first, in their words. Ban big tech censorship, finish the wall, being tough on crime, parents first. They're against trans sports and letting kids transition until they're 18. Federally, they want to ban late-term abortion and leave alone everything else. They prioritize the common good above equity, even if it means that some minorities will not improve. No, there's no vaccine mandates anywhere, no gun regulations whatsoever, and including getting rid of the registry for people who can't own guns, and they want to make Trump a founding father. So, poll closings at 7 o'clock, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. There are about 6 states whose polls have closed at this hour, and right away we can project Indiana for Tulsi Gabbard. This state was won by Romney when he was a Republican by 11 points, but now it lands with his opponent, Tulsi Gabbard, by 20 to 25 points. This is an improvement on even Trump's 17% margin in 2020 and 2016. And Kentucky, same story here. She wins this by a bigger margin than Trump's 27 points. Meanwhile, an early call for Virginia. We usually do not call Virginia at poll closing time, but it is trending heavily blue, and we predict Virginia will go to Mitt Romney tonight, the former Republican running as a Democrat. He nearly won the state in 2012. He only lost it by around 3 to 4 points against Obama. But now it comes around and lands in the Romney column by about 7 to 11 points. It will be roughly similar to what Biden won the state by against Trump in 2020. And Georgia, also a very early call, is the state trending massively blue, but Mitt Romney, a former Republican running for the Democratic nomination this time actually helped it go even bluer. It is now solidly blue this year, and is projected to go to Romney by 6 to 9 points. The same margin that he won it by when he was a Republican back in 2012. Meanwhile, South Carolina is too early to call. Romney has a substantial lead, but this is because Democrat counties are counting, or no, this should say Gabbard should be, no, Romney Romney is in the lead, yes. The Democrat areas of South Carolina are called first, so this lead is expected to shrink, and who knows if he can even hold on to it at all. The polls do not look good for Romney in that state. Vermont, and this is another potential big upset. Too close to call at this hour. Normally a solidly blue state, but now Gabbard is leading by 4 points in the initial vote. 3 electoral votes. Bernie Sanders' home state, full of a huge progressive population. So this year it is too close to call, and we cannot call Vermont at poll closing. Electoral map is on your screen now. 19 electoral votes for Republicans, 29 for Mitt Romney, the Democrats. It is now 7:30 p.m. on the East Coast, and the polls have closed in 3 more states. Right off the bat, we can call Ohio. 17 electoral votes for Tulsi Gabbard. She's projected to win by 15 to 20 points. This is an improvement on Trump's 8-point margin in 2020. West Virginia, same story. 4 electoral votes lands in her column. She wins this by 50 to 55 points. That is an improvement on Trump's 38-point margin and 40-point margins in 2016 and 2020. North Carolina's 16 electoral votes, meanwhile, are too close to call. Gabbard only leads by the skin of her teeth, but very little of the vote is in. Electoral map is on your screen now. 40 for Gabbard, 29 for Romney. 8 p.m. Eastern, and we have the second biggest batch of poll closings for the night. Tulsi Gabbard wins 43 combined electoral votes from the states of Alabama, Mississippi, Tennessee, Oklahoma, Missouri, and the 2nd District of Maine. In each of these districts, she's improved upon Trump's 2020 margins by substantially, especially in the 2nd District, where she's supposed to win it by double digits, more than Trump's 8-point margins in 2020 and 2016. Meanwhile, D.C. still lands in Mitt Romney's column, but by a greatly reduced margin. Normally, Democrats win this district by 80 points. Romney is only winning it by 20 to 30. Not a good sign for the Romney campaign. Meanwhile, 124 electoral votes, the biggest, a great percentage of the states are still undecided. These include the very traditionally blue states of Illinois, Connecticut, Maryland, Delaware, New Jersey, Rhode Island, Massachusetts, and also includes Pennsylvania, the trending very solid red state, Florida, the swing state of New Hampshire, Maine at large, and even the traditionally blue Maine 1st District. Meanwhile, we can finally call South Carolina for Tulsi Gabbard. She is regressing in this state, possibly. Trump won it by around 10 points. She could win it by only in the single digits, or possibly even a little bit higher, but more likely she's going to regress, do poorly, slightly worse for the state. 93 for Gabbard, electoral map. 32 for Romney. Poll closings, 8:30 p.m. Eastern Time, and we have Arkansas going to Gabbard by an increased margin. Trump only won it by 27 in 2020. The polls have closed. It is 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time in the biggest batch of poll closings for the night. Now, 21 electoral votes combined for Tulsi Gabbard. She wins through Louisiana, Nebraska, North Dakota, South Dakota, East Dakota, West Dakota, and Wyoming. I'm just joking. In each of these states, in Louisiana, she's improving. In Nebraska, she's regressing. In North Dakota, South Dakota, she's improving. I mean, she has improved on Trump's margins, and in Wyoming, she's regressed. Meanwhile, Arizona, a very early call. It's normally a very swing state, but now it's called at poll closing time for Mitt Romney, for the Democrats. The state trending heavily blue, and now with a moderate Republican on the Democratic ticket, this state lands solidly in the Democratic column, and it's going to go to Romney by 6 to 10 points, roughly the same margin that he won Arizona by when he was a Republican. He won it by 8 points in 2012. Meanwhile, the 2nd district in Nebraska, 1 electoral vote will land solidly in the Romney column. It would go to him by 3 to 8 points, which is roughly equivalent to what Biden's margin in the state was, in the district was in 2020. Meanwhile, Wisconsin, normally a very swing state, but we're calling it for Tulsi Gabbard right away. Because she is up by such a massive margin that Romney cannot get even close to winning the state. We're projecting that she's going to win Wisconsin by 10 to 15 points, a safe margin. The electoral map is on your screen now. 130 electoral votes for Tulsi Gabbard. A lot of red filled in, relatively very little blue. Although if it's a bit of consolement for the Romney camp, it includes the normally very swingy states of Arizona and Georgia, which are now solid. And a lot of the states, 257 electoral votes. You probably would be shocked by the amount of states that we have yet to call that are normally solid, but the great bulk of the states we just don't even know where they're going to go yet. Poll closing, it is 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and the polls have closed in 4 more states. Iowa, 6 electoral votes, lands with Tulsi Gabbard. She has improved on Trump's 10-point margin in 2020. Montana, 4 electoral votes. She's regressed a bit from Trump's margin in 2020. Nevada, still close to call. Gabbard's narrowly leads. Utah, normally a safe red state, is too close to call at this moment. Gabbard only leads by the skin of her teeth. Utah, Romney is a senator from this state, and he's a Mormon, and just like most of the residents of the state. This is one of his 2 home states, the other being Massachusetts. We still have, both states have yet to be called, and we have yet to see which way either of them will go. Meanwhile, Pennsylvania, normally a very swing state, but we will call this for Tulsi Gabbard very early. She's projected to win Pennsylvania by 8 to 10 in the Keystone State. Electoral map is on your screen. 1 to 59 for Republicans, just 44 for Mitt Romney. And it is now 11 p.m. on the Eastern Coast, and we have poll closings in the 5 states, and 4 of the 5 are undecided at this hour. These are all 4 traditionally solidly blue states, but we cannot call any of them right now. They are each too close and too early to call. Meanwhile, the only state we can call out of the batch is Idaho for Tulsi Gabbard. However, she is projected to regress massively. Trump won the state by around 30 points. Gabbard is only going to win it by slightly over 10. Meanwhile, Massachusetts, Romney's 2nd home state, 11 electoral votes. He is projected to win, but by a reduced margin. Normally, this is Democratic plus 25, but he's projected to only win it by single digits. And the same with Maryland, 10 electoral votes. Normally the most Democratic state in the Union, except for D.C. It normally votes Democratic plus 25, but this time it only lands in his column by 7 to 12 points. That's still a decent margin. This is on par with Larry Hogan's margin in the governor's race in the state in 2018. He won the state by around 11-12 points, and Romney will win the state by a similar margin. It's similarly to in Massachusetts, where Mitt Romney was a governor. It's electing him by smaller margin than when he was a governor, but nonetheless a big win for the Romney campaign. He needed to hold on to these states if he were to have any chance to win the election. And New York, the Empire State's 28 electoral votes, projected to still land with Mitt Romney tonight, despite by a vastly deflated margin. Normally this is Democrat plus 22, but it is only landing Democrat by single digits. Meanwhile, Florida, Sunshine State, 30 electoral votes. They have finally finished counting, and we see that Tulsi Gabbard is the apparent winner in the state. About 98% of the vote is in, and she is projected to win by 0-2. She is up by only around a point, slightly under a point in the raw total. The electoral map we thought is on your screen now. 193 for Tulsi Gabbard, 93 for Mitt Romney. We thought Florida, the polls indicated a tight race, and we thought there was good chance that Romney could actually flip the state, because Cubans broke, especially for Romney, the first time they broke him for a Democrat in any given year. But obviously because of economic reasons, but it still was not enough to flip the state. We also saw a lot of Trump voters broke for Gabbard as a matter of revenge against Mitt Romney for his votes against Trump, and for Liz Cheney's votes to impeach Trump as well. And that in the end, their past behavior with Trump doomed them in Florida, despite the socialist rhetoric of Tulsi Gabbard, which they don't take kindly to, the Cubans and the people in Florida usually. Nonetheless, Tulsi Gabbard wins the state, a must-win for, not necessarily a must-win, but it definitely helps her a lot to win 30 electoral votes from Florida. And now, 1 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, we have poll questions out of Alaska, which we project for Tulsi Gabbard by a significantly reduced margin. Trump won the state by 10. Gabbard was projected to win the state by single digits. And North Carolina, we can also call the Tar Heel state, 16 electoral votes for Gabbard. She will win this by a tilt margin, or possibly a low lean. She leads by around 1.5 points in the raw vote total right now. The vote is around 70% in. She can win anywhere from 0 to 2 points, probably similar to what Trump won the state against Biden in 2020. The electoral vote is on your screen now. 212 for Tulsi Gabbard, just 93 for Mitt Romney, and 233 electoral votes yet to call. It is now November 7, 2024, and it is 2 whole days after the election, and we still don't even know who won. But we have calls out of Connecticut. Mitt Romney wins the state by only a lean margin, only around 3 to 5 points. He is the apparent winner in the state of Connecticut. New Jersey, 14 electoral votes. Mitt Romney only wins by a low lean margin, only around 1 to 2 points. And in Delaware, Joe Biden's home state, Mitt Romney only wins by 2 to 3 points. The state last voted for Democrat by around 14, the lowest it ever got in recent history, against Hillary Clinton. Now Romney is going to take it to an even lower level against Gabbard. Meanwhile, Michigan, this Rust Belt state, very economically left but socially right, 15 electoral votes lands in Tulsi Gabbard's column by 6 to 8 points, a very solid margin for a Rust Belt state, which are normally swing states, but not this cycle, not in this matchup. And electoral vote is on your screen now. 227 for Tulsi Gabbard, just 117 for Mitt Romney. It is now November 8th. It is 3 whole days after the election, and we finally can project Nevada for Tulsi Gabbard. 6 to 9 point win, pretty solid for this normally swing state, but her libertarian appeal and her her anti-war appeal really did help her in the state. Meanwhile, New Hampshire, same story here. 4 electoral votes. She wins this by 2 to 4 points, which is very good for a Republican. Not as much as she would have hoped, but Mitt Romney's Northeastern appeal did cut into her margins somewhat. Same with Maine at large. She wins the state by a low lead margin, 1 to 3 points. While Maine's first district still narrowly sides with Mitt Romney, we thought there was potential that this district would even flip, given the progressive vote and the young vote in the district, in the urban areas. But Romney, this is normally Democrat plus 22, but Romney narrowly holds on by 4 to 5 points. Electoral map is on your screen now. 239 for Tulsi Gabbard, 118 still for Romney. Is on November 9, 5 days after the election, and we have some projections to make, and we still don't even know who won. 5 electoral votes in New Mexico for Tulsi Gabbard. She wins by a low lean margin, barely more than a tilt margin, of 1 to 2 points. Normally a solid Democratic state, but now it flips to Tulsi Gabbard. Presumably, this was a lot due to libertarian appeal and as well as Hispanics switching en masse to the Republican Party by even higher rates because of Tulsi Gabbard being on the nomination, and also with Mitt Romney being on the Democrat side. Colorado also solidly a Biden plus 13-14 state in 2020, now flips to Tulsi Gabbard by even more than New Mexico, actually. Gabbard wins by 2 to 5 points. The state hasn't voted Republican since 2004, back when it was still a solid Republican state. Now Tulsi Gabbard wins it back to the GOP column. The amount of progressives in the state broke heavily for her. Mitt Romney did not have any appeal whatsoever here, except to traditional Republicans and to some moderate Democrats. But so many of traditional, very progressive Democrats switched over to the GOP that they managed to flip Colorado to the Republican column by a lead margin. Meanwhile, another surprising flip. What we thought this was going to happen. Utah. We thought the polls indicated this was very possible. They elected him for Senate, 6 electoral votes. Mitt Romney, the Republican senator, former Republican senator from the state, standing Republican senator from the state. Well, he switched to Democrat, but the sitting senator from the state wins Utah by 1 to 5 points. Mitt Romney has done what no other Republican has done in recent years. He has flipped, no other Democrat has done. He has flipped the state of Utah into the Democratic column. The first time probably since 1964, I think. Somewhere around then. A very, very long time. This is unprecedented. History has been made. And the same with Kansas. Kansas, a very rural state, very, but not very socially conservative. It's very fiscally conservative, and that has helped to deliver Kansas, a normally safe red state that Trump won by 17 points, into the Democrat column. Mitt Romney is going to win this state against Tulsi Gabbard by a low lean margin. The electoral map is on your screen now. 130 for Mitt Romney, 254 for Tulsi Gabbard. You can see Utah and Kansas. Big splotches of blue among a sea of red. And lots of and a lot of red. Still a lot of yellow, though. A lot of electoral votes left to call. It is on November 10th. It is 5 days after the election. It's 6 days after the election. November 11th, not November 10th. And Texas, we have this is another good sign for Mitt Romney. He has won the state of Texas. He has flipped Texas to the Democratic column. Texas is trending rapidly blue in recent election cycles, apparently. But Mitt Romney has sped it up, and he has won the state of Texas by a tilt margin with his fiscal conservatism, just like in Kansas and in Utah. He has flipped Texas, the second biggest prize in the union, to the Democrat column, which this is a must-win. This gives the Romney campaign some hope. Meanwhile, Minnesota, we can project for Tulsi Gabbard. She's not going to win by, we got the margin wrong. No, the margin is going to be 2 to 4 points. not 0-1. She's not going to win it by a tilt margin. We apologize for this error. But Minnesota, meanwhile, flips Republican for the first time since 1972. The longest streak of Democratic voting of any state in recent history has been broken. It ends today with Tulsi Gabbard, the first populist Republican in a very long time, and against Mitt Romney, a Democrat who was against populism. Minnesota turned its back on the Democratic Party, just like its other three Rust Belt neighbors did in 2016. Now, the electoral map is on your screen. 264 for Tulsi Gabbard. She's rapidly approaching the 270 magic number, which is 170 for Mitt Romney. It's looking like Tulsi Gabbard is very close, but Mitt Romney could still pull this off. All the remaining states are traditional Democratic states. If he wins all or nearly all of them, he is the president. But let's see if he can. Mitt Romney cannot afford to lose Oregon, Washington, California, or Illinois. He can afford to lose one of the following. He can afford to lose Hawaii, he can afford to lose Vermont, or he can afford to lose Rhode Island. But he cannot lose Vermont and Rhode Island, or Vermont and Hawaii. So he can only lose one more state, meanwhile. But nonetheless, these are traditional Democratic states, so we really have to see. And it is perhaps bewildering at this hour that we have called states like Pennsylvania, but we still can't call normally solid Democratic states like Vermont or California. It is now November 12th. It is a full week after the election. And we finally can call Rhode Island for Tulsi Gabbard. Now, if Romney just loses one more state, he will lose the election, and we predict that he has. He has lost Vermont 3 electoral votes from this Middle East, from this very Democratic state. It was Democratic plus 36 in 2020. But now it flips the Tulsi Gabbard in the Republican column. It's projected to go to her by a tilt margin of less than a point. 3 electoral votes. Bernie Sanders' home state, the most progressive state in the union, now lands in the Tulsi Gabbard column. Mitt Romney really did not have much appeal, and the progressives really turned on him and gave their votes instead to Bernie Sanders' protege. Even if she went rogue and she espoused many social views that they did not like, that they considered unsavory. But Gabbard wins Vermont, Bernie Sanders' home state, by less than a point, and we can thus project Tulsi Gabbard will be elected the 47th President of the United States, the first female president, the first president of Samoan ancestry, of color, and from a native-born Hawaiian. Unlike Obama, who was also born in Hawaii, but is not a native Hawaiian. Yes, and Tucker Carlson also becomes the first vice president with no political experience whatsoever. And the electoral map is on your screen now. Tulsi Gabbard has passed the magic number of 270 by just 1 electoral vote. If she loses all the remaining states, she'll win this election so narrowly by a Bush v. Gore margin in the electoral count in 2000. Bush only won with 271 electoral votes, and scores 268. But we still have yet to call the other states. So we don't know. And now we have state projections. This is November 21, 2024. This is a full 2 weeks after Election Day. Because it takes weeks to count the election to know who won this country. And Hawaii, Tulsi Gabbard's home state, she has flipped it. She'll win it by 3 to 5 points, a high lean margin. Illinois, our home state of Flag Armada elections, 19 electoral votes, will also flip to Tulsi Gabbard. It will land in the high lean margins. It was previously a Democrat plus 17 state. Now it lands in the Republican plus 4 to 5. Washington, same by slightly less. Very progressive state. 12 electoral votes now flipped to the Republican column. The first time in a very long time. Same with Oregon. Similar margins to Illinois, but a lot of progressives in this state as well. It lands in the Gabbard campaign by a lean margin. And California, the biggest prize in the union, has also flipped Republican. It landed in the Gabbard column by 1 to 2 points, a very low lean margin. And the final electoral map is on your screen now. 368 for Tulsi Gabbard. She wins 368 to 170. 170 for Mitt Romney. And the map, as you can see, is very weird this cycle. Lots of flips on both sides. You know, Tulsi Gabbard has flipped 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16 states and 185 electoral votes. Republican. Meanwhile, Mitt Romney flips 3 states and 52 electoral votes. Democrat. So, states that were formerly solid, like California, Illinois, Vermont, were competitive this cycle, whereas states that were formerly competitive, like the Rust Belt, like Arizona and Georgia, ended up being solid. So, a very peculiar map like we have never seen in recent history. Definitely one of the weirdest elections that will go down in history. And the popular vote, Gabbard has 48% and Romney has only 40%, which is this means the third party vote skyrocketed, even making 2016 look good in comparison. Look unified in comparison. It is a Gabbard plus 8, Republican plus 8 national environment. Thanks for watching, and if you want to see more videos like this, like, comment, subscribe below, and I'll see you later.